Today, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Emily Gray to the podcast. And Emily is a great friend of mine. She's created some great products for dance studios, and she also has a studio program of her own. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's so great to be here.
For those of you who don't know who Emily is, the creator of the Dance Dots, which is a retrieval cue. And I'd love for you to just give a little background into what you do and how this came to be.
Well, again, thank you for having me. Yes, I have worked within dance education for over 20 years in a variety of spaces. I have specifically started within K to 12 environments as different programs over time I've been a part of and helped grow from the ground up. And I still have a company that works within that world in the state of Florida. And then from there, I have branched out into working in higher ed within two different colleges up in the Northeast Boston area, Endicott College and MIT, and get to be heavily involved in their dance history and dance and society work, but then also bridging movement and leadership concepts together as individuals move into various organizational design and, again, leadership type fields. Within that, though, I ultimately, going way, way back to this time when I was very beginning my work in K to 12 environments, I found myself teaching in a variety of spaces. So, not studios per se, but classrooms, gymnasiums, lunchrooms, music rooms, lobbies of different performing arts centers. And I noticed that students had a very difficult time transitioning from one space to another whenever we would get quote unquote bumped,
Yeah.
where if a different class or a different group at the school needed to use a specific space, we would need to move. And that was fine. We could very much, as a dance class, whatever class we were at the time, we would move to a new space, but the students would get disoriented. And so creating a grid on the floor with various spots helped me help the students better retain information. And that is the introduction to how I was jumping into this world of retrieval cues, and which we're going to be talking about today, and how that different markers on the floor helped my students understand where to go in their dances, but in their choreography, but then also within classroom design itself.
Yeah. So you touched on the word retrieval cues. What does that mean for you?
So, what a retrieval cue is, and believe it or not, many of us use retrieval cues every day. Even apart from dance environments. Um, Retrieval cues are basically anything that in our environment that helps us pull a memory forward. In dance, retrieval cues might be the sound of a particular musical phrase or the feeling of standing in second position. Or in our case, as we're talking about today, further on, the specific colored dot on the floor. Apart from dance, a retrieval cue might be the proverbial string tied around your finger to help you remember something, or the alarm on your phone that goes off and reminds you that it's time to do the next thing on your to-do list. All in all, again, it's basically anything in our environment that helps us pull a memory from long-term memory forward, such that we are recalling information that we have previously stored.
Yeah. I think that's really important, especially I think people live the distracted life now. And whether it's children or adults, right? There's whether it's on a phone or a tablet or TV, the radio, things happening in your home or work, there's constantly things vying for our attention. So having something that would help us recall the information that we need to have
Mhm.
is really important. So I actually use your dance dots at my studio. And when we started using them, we definitely found that we went from, I don't want to say good to great, we went from fair, sort of trying to figure it out, to a real system. Many of you listening might have bought, those little poly plastic dots or put gaffers tape dots or spike tape on the floor or letters or something along the mirror line to indicate to dancers where to stand and stuff. But you've kind of taken a different spin on this. Could you talk more about that?
Yes. So the dance dots themselves is a patented system that I told you the beginnings of it as I was working in schools, but it's evolved over time to the point where I feel like it needed to be an entire system that people could purchase as a book, as physical dots as well, such that they can implement this program within studios, within classrooms, no matter where they're working. And over time, what has evolved is a system of 26 different numbers, plus then A through F, as basically, if you consider a musical staff, but it's 5 lines, horizontal lines on the floor that have the dots placed in windows, if you will. And this then functions as a way for individuals to reorient space as they're coming in for the classroom. And then also, it's a choreographic tool such that students have seen it every single time they're coming in. They can then use the same dots on the floor to create various choreographic formations to where students feel very comfortable and successful remembering where to go throughout the entire dance education experience. Basically, each dot provides multiple retrieval pathways. The color follows the rainbow sequence, thinking of that Roy G. Biv, if you will, which is backed by research helping us to recall information. So that's actually why it's designed in that structural pattern: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. Um, Most children have learned this from early childhood. But then there's also a number, which helps with sequencing. So some dots have letters for additional identification if you need to add that extra line. But basically, the spatial positioning itself is helping the students to remember where they go as they enter the room for the class, but then also where they go as they move through a choreographic work.
Yeah. Like one of the things I know when we were using our old just trying to figure it out systems, we would just haphazardly put dots all over the floor, those plastic things on the floor. Um, and some of the things that we had were like they were really huge. And so they were very visible or they would kind of take up more space than need. Like I like that yours is a smaller product. And then um before we started recording, I shared how we do something called show and dance in our studio. So we have 3 studio rooms, and dancers, as we're preparing for a performance, we all come into the largest room and everybody gets to show a bit of their choreography as they're working on their dance to get that experience. And I had a class that came in and um, they were like, wait, where do we stand? Which way is front? How do we do this? How do we do that? And they were middle school and high school kids, and they were kind of turned around in the space. And I imagine a lot of people also get this when they're getting close to the recital and maybe they cover their mirrors with the curtain.
Mhm.
Or maybe they do a nursing home performance and the kids are trying to figure out themselves in space and it's a challenge. So this kind of solves for that um, for all ages. Um, One of the things we also talked about was how sometimes teachers resist implementing it for quote unquote older or more advanced students. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Of course. And no, as we go into this bit of the conversation, I am very excited to talk about this because a lot of the work that I've done over time, as I discussed in the very beginning, has to do with organizational design and systems thinking. So those that systems thinking can exist as as we consider the classroom itself as its own organization, but then also the studio and the dance program or performing arts program as an entire organization and system as well. So when you look at our environments and the people moving within these environments, everyone needs help remembering where to go and
Yeah.
what to do and how to be successful in these spaces. So whether we're looking at an individual who is 3 or 4 years old, who is brand new to a dance education environment, and needing to know where to put their bag or put their jacket and come in and take a seat to begin class. and then where to stand in their choreographic work for their recital or end of the session performance. Or we're considering an individual who might be much older, who is very much of a seasoned veteran within a
Yeah.
dance education environment, who might be, 16, 17, or 18 years old. They know where to put their shoes. They know where to put their jacket. Maybe they're at this particular dance program multiple days a week. Um, all that being said, for the older individual, if we want to consider just that person for the moment, they might come in with a lot of information in their mind all at one time. They're coming in from school, they're coming in from family, they're coming in from, multiple other after school activities as well. And all of that creates what we consider to be cognitive load. And so, helping an individual in a space reduce cognitive load with something as simple as floor markers to take away the extra work, if you
Yeah.
will, of just remembering the dance, that is a learning and teaching tool that we can use as educators and leaders in our spaces to help our students and dancers in general feel successful. So, I mean, this to me it feels like, I know it's difficult for those of us when we consider, well, they're older. They should just know. They should just
Yeah.
know they've been here. They're at an age where they can understand the concept of standing in a straight line, or concept of standing in a triangle or a circle, or a more abstract formation, simply because they have been in a performance environment, studio space for a long period of time, many years possibly. But again, as individuals get older, their cognitive load is more. And there might be more dances they're trying to remember, or even
Yeah.
if it's not, it's still helping individuals better move information from short-term memory through the process of getting to long-term memory by the
Yeah.
use of a retrieval cue system, a spot on the floor that's consistent. And that's the next thing, is that whatever system is being used needs to be consistent. And that's why I love the dance dots and how it functions as a classroom organization tool, where individuals come in, they know where to sit, they know where to stand for warm up, for various locomotor movements across the floor, for maybe the reverence period of the class. But then also, because it's still placed on the floor in that same grid format throughout the entire learning time frame, students and choreographers can use this same grid to create and map out formations such that, yes, I know where to go because there's number 20 right there. And I remember that I stand next to number 20 when I do my pirouette, or
Yeah.
when I do this specific leap or jump, I'm over here on number 17. That generally just helps individuals know where to go in space. And that helps this transfer of learning continue, not just over space, but over time. When students get to the place where they're able to feel successful in what they're doing in the classroom, but then also when they move to the performance environment itself, and they are able to remember what to do and where to go on the stage, what ultimately is happening is individuals feel calm. They feel successful, like I mentioned, and that helps to increase a positive feeling overall, to where students remember dance education and performance in a happy, if you will, happy
Yeah.
and uplifting way, such that we are considering our transfer of learning not just over space and moving from one location to the next and one class time to the next, but over time, where individuals will then also remember this entire experience of choreography and learning dance in general and learning about the dance that they're working with, and the people that are around them in a more positive light.
Yeah. As we're talking, I'm remembering back to my marching band days in high school. We had a large, large marching band, and we had in our drills and different things like that, we did have markers for each spot for the formations of this 250 person band, right? Getting us to get those spots right over time was really important, and it was a great tool. One of the challenges we had is when we went to competitions. And so I can imagine that that same question would come up for a studio where they have a competitive program. And they're on different stages. Are there any tips or best practices for transferring your dancers to other spaces that maybe aren't in your controlled, whether it's a rec center, YMCA, or your studio? Are there tips for those situations?
Yes. So two different mindsets and two different tips. So my first tip is, if at all possible, use the same retrieval cue markers that you're using in the classroom in the performance environment. That transfer of learning matters. And if those dots exist, you can lay them down quickly in the same order in any space that you're going to perform. Then your students are going to naturally feel more calm, like I just mentioned, because they're
Yeah,
going to see something that they remember. And the idea, again, is that this is a retrieval cue. The cue meaning, it's bringing back something
yeah,
in my mind, and I'm helping to retrieve that as an action within my brain, such that then the overall emotional feeling is peaceful.
right.
See something that I recognize. How many times have we walked into performance environments and we feel nervous? We feel
Yeah,
anxious because the whole thing is new, and now there's new people in the audience, and it's a new space, and I'm having to quickly adapt. And yes, we value that part of life. That is, yes, a part of life, that we, when we transfer to different new things in life, we want to be able to adapt. But how wonderful is it when we can also teach individuals that bringing some semblance of what you already know with you helps you to feel more calm, and helps you to go, yes, I can reorient my space here. This is helping me to remember what it is that I've learned. That is the beauty in the dance dots as well, because they come in stickers, but then they also come in silicone spots that can move between spaces. The second tip, though, which I talk about in my book, is that you can, as a dance educator and leader in your space, periodically play with the dance dots in the learning environment, such that you are helping your students remember their formations even if the dot is not there. An example would be, you have the entire grid laid out, you have taught your entire choreographic work, and a game that you can play that's also a teaching tool would be, I'm going to take up two or three dots from around the room randomly. And
Mm,
anytime a student needs to then move through their choreographic work and they happen to land on that now empty space, it's helping them to remember where it is that they're going formation wise and what to do within this dance, you know, without a dot, but that other spots are still there in this teaching time frame.
yeah,
Then maybe you replace those dots and pick up different ones and run the dance again. And you can play with this in a variety of different ways. Maybe an entire row is removed, and then a different row is removed. And so, again, I realized we are talking, and having visuals would certainly maybe help solidify what it is that I'm explaining. I do explain it in detail with images in the book, but this helps students play with the idea of dots not being available in their
okay,
performance environment as a game.
yeah,
It becomes fun. So when you
mm,
get to a space like competition, maybe
right,
that you can't necessarily have dots. Maybe some competitions allow you to have floor markers, but in the case that you can't, now this action of going through your dance without dots becomes the retrieval cue,
yeah,
because you have already played with this idea as a game and it was fun in class. So this is just an extension. The competition itself is now an extension of that game. And
yeah.
that game itself becomes now the retrieval cue system.
Yeah. And how much better for it to be a point of, hey, we've done this in class. This is kind of a fun game versus anxiety.
Right.
Yeah. That's really good. I figure I'm like, that's going to be a question people have. Like, we're going to go into the February through June competition season, and people want their dancers to feel prepared. So, thank you for sharing that. So we've got a lot of great information, but if you could share with us your website and how people can learn more, get the book, some dots, and I understand you have like glow in the dark ones too.
Yes, yes, we have a handful of glow in the dark dots as well that are the silicone spots. They are not stickers. The glow in the dark ones do not come in the sticker form, but the silicone spots that are glow in the dark are very great for two different things. One is the performance itself becomes really fun whenever the lights go down and you need to find your spot quickly in the dark. You
Mhm.
can see everything. I will say when the lights come up, the color itself is a little bit more muted than the original dance
Yeah.
dots, but you can still see the
Mhm.
numbers and the letters very clearly. It's just the nature of the material itself. But glow in the dark dots are also a fabulous teaching tool where when you use them in the classroom as an incentive, where you maybe have the students run through everything a few times in class and now they've done great work and they're working very, very hard. I very much encourage the um, the action and implementation of praise in the work sense as opposed to the product sense. Anyway, when they've done a great job, you can then possibly remove the regular original dance dots and lay the glow in the dark dots down. That becomes, again, a special game
They
for
love
students.
lights down.
Yes.
Woo! They
So
even
that's
like to fight
always,
over, I want to turn the lights off.
uh-huh. It's awesome.
That's
It's awesome.
awesome.
They have such a great time and just a different tool in the toolbox for teachers to be able to
Yeah.
pull out something at the end of class, or maybe even the entire class if they've reached that point.
Yeah.
But the website for the Dance Dots themselves is the Dance Dots, www.thedancedots.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, so you can look us up there. But individuals can also connect with me for a Zoom call if they're interested in learning more about the Dance Dots. That is an available link right there on the Dance Dots website. So know that that is an option as I am an educator at heart. And I want to keep working with people and helping. And these types of moments also help me to keep thinking about how retrieval cues and lesson planning materials can really help and work with dance educators where they are in this moment in time.
I will include the links in the show notes so that you can go ahead and learn more.
Thank you so much. Again, just so that way we have referenced it for anybody who's looking on Amazon. The name of the book is The Dance Dots Explore Your Space by Connecting the Dots. And Ginger, just thank you so much for this time. It's been great.
Absolutely.